All right, what's going on, guys? So I'm gonna do I'd like to call it a comprehensive Procreate Blender brush tutorial. So I have a set of brushes right here, right? And I have a bunch of sets of brushes I've made. Some I've downloaded, some I've paid for, whatever, but bunch of brushes, right? But I've made this set called In Brush Blending, right? And what these are is just brushes that I decided that I needed in my process. And I didn't realize the power of what Procreate could do. So kudos to a guy called Borodonte. He makes YouTube videos. He's pretty big, but he kind of showed me that Procreate, I think it was in Procreate 5, released a new feature called the blur function within the brush tool, right? So you go in here, you go into wet mix, and you've got all of these. You got dilution, charge, and anyone that wants brushes like this, here are my settings. I'm gonna release this pack anyway for free, but right here in the blur function, it's set to max, right? And what that does, it really allows the strokes to blend. So look at that, I'm actively blending this, right? And I kind of made a video about things Procreate does better than Photoshop, and I included stuff like this, but it actively blends, right? So what I've done is I've got myself a rough kind of line art that I'm just going to do some coloring on, just to kind of show the power of this blending brush. And I'm only going to really use the round version of the blending brush, but I say that now, we'll see how that goes. So if you know about DC Comics, this is Darkseid, and I drew this kind of angry looking Darkseid because the Snyder Cut comes out next month. And I remember when I saw the original trailer for it, and I thought, yeah, this is cool, angry Darkseid. So that's what I've kind of tried to go for. It's a very kind of like evil, kind of Snydery looking Darkseid. Usually Darkseid's got a bunch of armor, but he's going to be like very kind of bare chested in my rendition. There's not going to be much kind of him to show really. And then his helmet, I don't know what color his helmet is, I can't lie to you. For the helmet, I'm just going to use the selection tools. I'm just going to find a solid kind of, well, I'm just going to, as I said, I'm going to use the same brush, but I'm going to just kind of fill this in. This isn't going to be me, oh, let me show you me blending some color fills, because that doesn't make any sense to me. So, but yeah, so we got a darker gray. I don't know what color Snyder's Darkseid's helmet is. Put the clipping mask on. But yeah, go back underneath, turn the selection off, and we'll just fill that with gray. It's pretty much everything's gray that isn't the helmet, right? So what I want to do now is just quickly change my lines to a multiply, because they're not a multiply for whatever reason, and turn the opacity down a little bit. So what I want to really showcase here is how good the blending is in Procreate. So I'm going to be on the same layer, this layer here, the gray layer with the gray kind of tones on, and I'm just going to quickly go in and just do a few things. So right here is the eyes. We're just going to fill them with white, because in the trailer they were white. And you can do little things like this. Look, so if I source that gray from the helmet, I can slowly, subtly kind of put some gray in the eyes to kind of make the eyes pop a little bit. So I think a good technique is to make another clipping mask, set this to multiply, right? And I don't always do this. Usually I like to paint on one layer, but I just want to show people what the capabilities are, and put slightly, some slight yellow within that color. And I just want to kind of go in here and do some shadows. So, and I put the yellow in the shadows because I want a little bit more of a difference between just that basic gray. But look, so I'm starting out with just some basic shadows where they would fall. Let's say if the sunlight was just cast from above or just ahead. So we can start out very solid, and then we can, with the same brush, no smudge tool, we can kind of smudge it in together. So you can get these kind of gradations of hard and soft shadows almost within the same brush stroke. And that saves so much time. Like, I mean, if Photoshop could do this. So what this is very similar to something like a Clip Studio Paint. Very, very similar. It's taken painting in Procreate to a similar place to a Clip Studio Paint or a Coral Painter or a Medibank or an Open Canvas or a Paint Tool Sai, all of these kind of software that have this really good blendability that Photoshop doesn't have. And it gets to a point when I think about my channel and I think maybe I'm just bashing Photoshop, but I'm not. These are just things that I always wanted in Shop, and Shop was my main tool for a lot of years, with Painter kind of being my close second. But it just never made any sense to me that Procreate can come out of nowhere and make a blending brush this good, and barely anyone talks about Procreate's blending brush, because literally I've only seen Borodonte talk about it, because Procreate is still very new to the art community, and there's a lot of like videos about Procreate, but a lot of them are about very rudimentary things. So for me, I just wanted to kind of go out here and show you guys that, you know, in 5 minutes you can go into something and you can just use a blender brush to really create a lot of, you know, complicated shadows and stuff like that, and do it with a lot less effort than you would expect. So what I'm doing now, I'm starting to add some kind of like skin tones. Even though he's kind of like made of stone, it's not stone. He still is some kind of a humanoid. I know he's conveyed very stony, so I like to add a little bit of flesh tones here and there. Not too much, but just a little bit, so we can kind of have some kind of a fleshy feel going on here and there. Plus it can help ourselves do like bounce lighting. But look, so as I said, look, you can make a shape and you can just blend it, and that's gonna go. I'm gonna destroy that, but I just wanted to show you guys like how useful, like how blendy this really is. This is one brush, this is no smudge tool, nothing. You can just blend these things. It's ridiculous. And always used to like, when I was using, I'm going to merge these layers down so I can paint on them as one. When I used to use Painter and stuff like that, I used to really think, why? And I've been using Painter since Painter 10. So I used to think, why can Photoshop not do this? After all the years as well, Photoshop still can't really do this. Photoshop's blender brush is still not very good. So I'm doing now, going in, exact same brush, I'm doing highlights. And this is perfect for like, if you're a comic book artist or something like that, this is perfect for that kind of process. If you want to color your stuff, if you don't want to use a bunch of lasso selections. You see what I'm doing here? Subtle highlights. And this is something I see Mohammed Abigdali do a lot, but he does it with the lasso tool. But here, you can literally do it with the brush tool. You add so much volume to whatever it is you're painting, just by adding these subtle highlights. And then you know, subtle shadows. You go in and do exactly the same thing on the shadow side. So you subtly start to give shape and form and volume to things. From a very rough kind of sketch with a very kind of simple color fill that I had earlier, all of a sudden in, you know, like 5 minutes, I have this thing that is like, you know, it has enough detail in it for you to look at it and think, wow, you know, I can't, it's coming together, right? So just gonna go in here just quickly. So I like to double down on these videos, so I like them to be demonstrations, and I also like to be contributing towards whatever art I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to clean up these lines a little bit, just a little bit, not too much, just so we get a little bit of a cleaner result. Maybe I'll make the lines clipping mask as well. Okay, so go back here and just start doing little things like this. Look, because we have a blender brush, we can just start messing around like and doing things like this, having a half hard line, then blurring it in and creating like muscle striations and all these little things that, you know, you start off quite subtle, but the brush truly blends. So it's it's a very strange experience when you've been painting digitally and you've kind of been blocking stuff out, because now you can block things out with a different level of intent and start creating your own details from just like brush strokes. Now Snyder's Darkseid has some kind of an omega symbol kind of on his chest. I don't know how it goes, but I'm just making like a rough version of that. Like he has like this cavity in his chest. Very strange, but look, we just did that with literally 3 brush strokes. And like here, look, these striations that you get in the chest, subtly just kind of whip them in, make a hard line and blur the back. So you have a hard line to separate and a blurred back. Alright, so what I'm going to do is merge all of these layers together. So now I just have one layer for Darkseid. I start working on everything, the helmet, everything. Blurring these kind of together. Some of these lines. And sometimes like your sketch lines can look really good on your final piece. They just look good. They just, people like to see some kind of like imperfection, I guess. Sometimes, not all the time, and sometimes it pays off. For me, in this image, I'm gonna kind of be getting rid of a lot of those, but as I said, you know, there's so much you can just do with just this one brush alone. And this is just one from the pack. The other ones are very similar variants of it, but different shapes. One of them has a little bit of texture to it, and you guys, you know, you guys can take the pack and you can augment it any which way that you want to kind of go to whatever level you want to go to. I'm going to go a bit darker with this helmet. I think it blends in too much with the cheek. But as you can see, it hasn't taken long, and this blender brush has just really progressed the process further than kind of noodling around with a non-blending brush. As I said, take the highlights, go in, make hard shapes, and then blend them down, and it creates these cool little cavity effects. Extra kind of levels of detail within the piece. But I think I'll leave it here. I think I've kind of displayed enough for people to kind of get what this brush pack's gonna offer. Now in the future, I'll probably start selling brush packs, but for now, I just want to kind of get some brush packs out there just so people can kind of play with them. And I hope I can help the community. I think if we work as a community, everyone's work will get better. Everyone will kind of be able to get to a different level artistically with what they're doing. So I think that's it, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.